This is the new Alfa Romeo Junior, and I like it already, partly because it promises handling, lightness, passion, emotion, you know, all that Alfa stuff, partly because of these wheels, but mostly because during its short time on this earth, it's already managed to piss off the Italian government so much that Alfa have had to change its name. Short of a snake crawling out of the boot at this press event and eating a journo, I can't think of a more Alfa Romeo way of arriving onto the EV scene. Lots to discuss today, so welcome to the first ever electric Alfa, and welcome to the Fully Charged Show. If you like Fully Charged, then you'll love our Everything Electric Expos around the world. Come and join us in Harrogate, Farnborough and Vancouver. Remember, energy and transport professionals go free. Oh, it's a good day. It's a good day when you can talk about an electric Alfa Romeo. Now, we'll get into the design and the performance and the controversy shortly, but let's just start by saying this. This car has a lot of siblings. The Stellantis eCMP platform has already spawned the Jeep Avenger, the Fiat 600e, the Peugeot 3008, the Vauxhall Corsa, and now this. So question number one for me today is it really an Alfa? Is it sufficiently different, or have they just taken one of those cars, popped on a slightly different body and some Alfa badges in an effort to inject some cash into this seemingly ever-struggling marque? And the answer, on first impression, appears to be a resounding no. What Alfa seem to have done here with the new Junior is lump the kitchen sink at it. It promises best-in-class handling and design, as you'd expect from an Alfa, but in addition, it claims to offer the best practicality and comfort in its class. So let's get into it. So let's just get into it. Let's have a little walk around this thing, starting at the front. And what do you make of the design? Polarizing, seemingly, based on the comments of the first few posts Alfa Romeo did about this car. I think it looks fabulous in the metal. Just classic Alfa Romeo with this triangular sculpting of the bonnet leading into this little triangular front grille. This is perhaps the most controversial element of the design, this big Alfa Romeo badge cover that's stuck over that little grille. I think it's kind of cool and unusual. Personally, we've got the iconic Alfa Romeo 3-strike DRLs. Incidentally, there is a little cable tidy under the bonnet. Alfa Romeo grandiosely is calling it the Alfa Romeo cable organizer, which I read in the press release and I was like, oh, is it like in the shape of a snake and you press the button and it kind of goes back in like the snake's tongue? No, it's just a little cubby for your cables, basically. Coming around the side, small car, smallest Alfa Romeo in the range, 4.17 meters, so almost exactly the same length as the Fiat 600 electric and the Jeep Avenger. Really compact little crossover, same battery and charging speeds as well, so it's a 50-odd kilowatt-hour usable battery, 100 kilowatt charging speed. It's an SUV, sort of, kind of, by name, but it's not actually, in practice, especially crossover-y. It's got a very low ground clearance, it's sporty and purposeful. Really the only elements of it that you could characterize as crossover are the fact that it's got plasticky bits around the wheels and a slightly higher ingress, posh word for door hole. Frankly, you can call it whatever type of car you want. I think it looks mean and sporty and purposeful. Look at the way these wheels fill out the arches. Look how widely they're pushed out. Look at how flared these wheel arches are. Look how low the thing is. This is the higher trim Veloce, which is a little bit low. We'll get into trim levels in a moment, but I think it looks mean and quick and sporty. And Alfa claims it's going to be all of those things. This is aiming for best-in-class performance and handling. Now, admittedly, having the best-in-class handling and performance in the class of small electric crossovers is a bit like being the most exciting dishwasher tablets. It's not a very high bar, but it's a welcome addition to the class. We could do with a bit more excitement. A moment for the wheels. These are the 20 inches that come on the Veloce trim. Have a look at those. That is a fantastic bit of rim. I like the one red stripe as well, clearly drawing inspiration from the famous quadrifolio logo of Alfa Romeo racing cars of yesteryear. We've got the badge here in the C segment. The Alfa Romeo badge is a snake eating a man. That's how you know it's the coolest car brand going. And then around the back, Really interesting looking thing, really interesting. I like the way they've kind of fitted the rear lights in underneath what they call the camtail here, this rear wing. Alfa promises really impressive aerodynamic properties. Efficiency and lightness are words that get used a lot in the press release. We'll talk about that shortly. But smart looking back end, and then here's something that might surprise you. That's a rather big boot, 400 litres. That is substantially bigger than the one you get in the Jeep Avenger, in the Fiat 600e. These are cars of the same size. Again, we're talking about a really small crossover here, a properly compact car with a properly roomy boot. And then we'll talk about this now. I've kept you waiting long enough. This said Milano as recently as 20 minutes ago, just before we started filming, a nice lady ran in, pulled that off, took a hairdryer to the badges on the side of the car, pulled those off and popped this on. Here's the scoop. When this car was first revealed a few days ago, it was called the Alfa Romeo Milano. A day or two after that, the Italian government took issue with this fact due to a very old law which states you can't brand stuff as being from Italy or made in Italy if it isn't. It's the same reason why Parmigiano Reggiano is made in Italy, whereas if it's from anywhere else, it's Parmesan cheese. And this car is going to be the first ever Alfa Romeo not manufactured here. It's going to be built in Poland. So Alfa had a choice on their hands. They either rebadged the Milano or moved manufacturing to Italy. And they chose the former. And given that the Stellantis CEO reckons that making this car in Poland has shaved some 10 grand off the starting price, I'd say that was the right call. Right, do you mind if I just geek out about performance and handling for a short moment? It is an Alfa Romeo, after all. Let's talk performance. 156 horsepower for the entry-level car, about 250 miles of range. That will be front-wheel drive. And then the Veloce, the sporty one, will have 240 horsepower and, well, less range, presumably. That's all well and good, nothing remarkable there. What's much more interesting to me is Alfa's claims that this will be the lightest car in its segment. Now, we haven't got a weight figure at this moment in time. It's not going to be less than a ton, clearly. But to even hear a car brand talking about lightness when describing their new EV is music to my ears. And I reckon they've actually gone for a deliberately modest-sized battery as part of that. Hopefully that's going to result in some impressive efficiency as well, which should be helped by that camtail at the back, which Alfa, again, claims is really beneficial, aerodynamically speaking. Another quote I like from the press release, best-in-class road holding. Road holding? Would that be grip, then? Well, it's a cool way of saying it, I suppose. Oh, this thing holds road. Also worth noting that Veloce is far from just a trim level. It's not just a bit more power and a slightly sportier bumper, as is so often the case with performance EVs. No, we're talking a mechanical self-locking differential. We're talking beefier anti-roll bars. We're talking sport suspension, which is lower. We're talking bigger brakes. We're talking a more direct steering ratio, even a wider track. Look again, these wheels filling out the arches beautifully. At every opportunity, Alfa have pointed out to us that the team who developed this car are the same team responsible for the Giulia GTA, which is their ballistic, essentially race car for the road, powered by that fizzy V6 engine. That's a fun car. If those guys made this, it's quite a good sign. Another thing I really like that Alfa love telling us is that when they build a new car, they develop the performance version first and then they dial it back down for the standard car, whereas most brands do it the other way around, because of course this is the one that most truly expresses Alfa's values. Of course, the other number that you'll want to know about is the price. We don't know that yet either, but a Jeep Avenger electric is £34,000 in the UK. I've heard it said that Alfa are going to look to just slightly undercut that number. Right then, interior of the Alfa Romeo Junior. What to begin with? Well, it's apparent that they've had a good rummage through the Stellantis parts bin to put this interior together. All the buttons and switches in the door, basically everything through the middle here, is recognisable from a Jeep Avenger, from a Vauxhall Mocha, and I have no problem with that, because number one, that's the whole point of Stellantis. They share parts, they keep costs down, it enables these brands to make small, good, reasonably affordable electric cars. That's the whole point. Number two, it works. It works just fine. This bank of physical switches here for my fan speed, my temperature, is a welcome addition to a cabin when so many other cars are burying those functions in touchscreens these days. This is better as far as I'm concerned. This rotary gear selector, I don't know just how big of a bulk order Stellantis put down for these, but it must be in the tens of millions. I think deep into the 2200s we're going to be seeing these on Stellantis products. Not complaining, just observing. So plenty of Stellantis part sharing going on, but then just a few little Alfa things to make it feel a little bit special. So you've got this Alfa Romeo steering wheel. Nice and simple, classic design. Steering wheels are getting too fiddly for my liking. Why is everyone overthinking the steering wheel, making them square with 9 spokes? No, nice and simple. Round wheel, quite small, thin rim, flat bottom, and some easy to hit physical buttons. Perfetto. We've got the twin gauge clusters in this kind of telescopic housing, which is an iconic Alfa Romeo thing. In actual fact, it's just a 10-inch screen, but they've made it look cool. It's even got some kind of moody red lighting around the outside of it. Likewise, these glowing red vents for the aircon, which are also modelled on the Quadrifoglio logo. Kind of cool. And if you want to go full Alfa, you can even have racy Seatbelt seats in the front here. I think it's about right. Evidently, a bit of part sharing, a little bit of money saving. This, after all, is a relatively affordable, small electric car, but then injected with enough Alfa Romeo-ness to make you absolutely sure that you've not climbed into a Vauxhall. Cameraman Andy's just touched on something quite interesting. Admittedly, not great legroom back here. Just figuring out if there is a way I can fit. But it does have that 400-litre boot, which is way above some of its sister cars in the Stellantis group. So maybe the decision has been made that boot space is more important than your children and their legs. Again, I'm very tall. Most people would be okay back here if a normal person was sitting in front of them. But you're not going to fit 4 large adults back here, is what I'm saying. I don't know if it's just because I grew up on Top Gear and Jeremy Clarkson, but this little thing is making me seriously excited. The first ever electric Alfa Romeo. And the age-old cliche about Alfa is it's the brand you buy with your heart, not your head. And with good reason, because historically there haven't been that many Alfa Romeo models that didn't have a slightly superior German rival that made slightly more sense to buy. But clearly with this car, Alfa are trying to offer an EV that you can buy with your head and your heart. A car that offers the comfort and practicality of its rivals while still doing that Alfa Romeo thing of plucking at your heartstrings. But does it? Well, I don't know. I haven't driven it yet, but I will soon, and I'll let you know. But in the meantime, let us know, what do you make of the Alfa Romeo not Milano but Junior? Tell us in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have been, thanks for watching.